Hey everyone, Sam here, and welcome to this Blender tutorial. I'd like to show you step by step how to use Blender to quickly design a chessboard, which for this series we're going to use to train machine learning models. So let's get right into it. So I've got Blender opened up here. We'll pull in a reference image, create the geometry mesh for the chessboard, create a procedural wood texture, and I'll give some tips along the way. You know what's frustrating is I've been in the field of computer vision for over a decade and I've only just started using Blender, and I wish I'd known about it earlier. It really does make synthetic data way easier. Let me put this here on the screen. So now when I type, you should be able to see the keys that I press somewhere on the screen. So in this case, in the bottom left, we've got our default Blender with their cube, our camera, and our light source. To start, let's push our view into the Z-axis by clicking on there. And I'm going to pull in some reference images. Press F3 and start typing in what you want to do. So let's say reference image, or you could type in Shift A, and then one of the options is a reference image, or you could even start typing in reference right there. In my bookmarks, I already have the images, so I'm going to pull in two images. Let's first bring in this dimensions, the rough dimensions of the king, pawn, and square size and board size. And most tournament chessboard sets like this one have a square size of 5 centimeters for the image. So let's pull in a reference image. I'm going to do it the same way, Shift A, and I'll pull in this overhead view I found of this wooden Staunton tournament chessboard. Since I know the square size needs to be 5 centimeters, I'm just going to change the dimensions of this cube that's default to 5 centimeters, and let's say 1 centimeter. And you can see it's basically disappeared, and that is because it is very, very small. So the scale of the images is way too big. So to reduce it, I just click on the image and I press S to start scaling, and I can just zoom it in and out as I want with my mouse. So I'm just zooming the camera and zooming in. Actually, that's a little too small. And something like that. And then to move it, you can either use the move commands here and then drag it around, or the way I like to do it is press G once, and then while I'm selecting it and that lets me move it, click to place, and it looks like we're almost there. It just doesn't need to be too precise, just get close. And I'd say that looks pretty good to me. So now we know the image is roughly in 5 centimeter scale for each of the tiles. Let's move this tile over to the left. That's going to be one of our references, and in fact, let's create another one. So if you press Shift D, it creates a copy. And I'm going to use this one, and that'll be 8 times that, and that's 8, 0.4 it looks like. So 5 centimeters times 8, and this is going to be the size of our full chessboard, and you can kind of see that here, that it fits pretty well. We'll just keep to the side as references, Shift A, and I'll just type in text, and we'll scale that way down, and we'll just keep that over here. All right, I moved all the references over into just their own little collection, and we'll do Shift D to create a copy, but I don't really want to move it like that, so I'll press X so I can just move it along the X-axis. The X and Y dimensions are 5 centimeters times 8, or 40 centimeters for X and Y. Z is just 1 centimeter, it's not important just yet. So what I'd like to do now, we can either subdivide the top face into 8 by 8, but I want to get the inlays. And there's this one little white strip and then the brown strip. Let's do Control R to create a loop cut. I'm just going to create one for now and then click to enter. And then I can select the bottom faces like this. I'm going to scale it, Shift C, so it's only on the X and Y. And this doesn't need to be precise just yet, but we're going to use that to create this kind of inlay shape. The next thing we can do is select this face, and can you do an outlay, outset? No, you can. Maybe you can. Like that. I think that worked. Yeah, okay, cool. And you notice it's not perfectly flat. We can fix that, turn on wireframe mode. That way it'll select the back faces also. Gotten all of those selected, you can see that now. And we press scale, Z, and 0. And now they're all flat. And you can actually see that when you look on the side now. So there we go. Okay, I'd like to be able to match up these dimensions more correctly. Actually, we're pretty close already. So one way we can do that is go into face mode, select that face, go back into Z and scale. Yeah, and I'd say right around there. It doesn't need to be perfect, of course. And let's pull this image above. I would like to be able to see it. So let's bring it above. And if you go down into the image section, you can choose opacity and we'll just drop it down to something like 0.5-ish. And now when we're looking from above, maybe it'll be a little hard for everyone else to see, but let's just drop that a bit. Try wireframe, and you can kind of see these edges, and we basically nailed it actually. I feel pretty good about that. It's off by a bit on the outsides, but we're going to guarantee that the inside is 5 centimeter tiles. So let's actually get to that now. We'll go back to this face mode and let's drop this back down underneath, turn off the opacity, go into edit mode, select this top face with the face mode, And you can right click and click subdivide. And I think you can even press Shift E, no, Control E, and subdivide. Breaks the face up into 4 faces. So we do that 4 times and we get our 8x8 grid. So that looks pretty good actually. I'm happy with that. Okay, one thing we need to do is make the height match to 1.27 centimeters. Yeah, there we go. That should do that. Let's get the colors fixed now. So there's a few ways we can do that. The way I'm going to do this is let's just call this initial material wood, and we're going to make it look a lot closer to wood in a minute with some procedural, but we can just choose an arbitrary color. To see that color, I can click viewport shading. Let's create a new material and we'll call this one white wood, I suppose, because it is technically still wood. So white wood. And I'd like to, it looks like what we need to do is all the inside inlay is white, and then this left square is going to be dark. So we'll do something called a checker deselect to make that happen. First, let's get this all to be white. And the way you do that is you select this material, assign, and now we have a white board. I want to checker deselect everything that is alternating. I think the way you do that, so you've selected one of these and then shift select the rest. F3, checker deselect. That was the wrong order, so we select the next one, checker deselect again, and there we go. And so the way we can then bring that back to wood is click the wood material and assign again, and bam, this actually already looks pretty nice. I'm very happy with that. We need to get the colors to match a bit more. We can work on that in a minute, but for now I'm just going into base color and the color picker and just choosing a color that's kind of close, and this is already going to do pretty nicely. So the camera is somewhere over here right now. If I were to press 0, it'll zoom us in there, and that's a bit too far away. We can move the camera in by doing Shift tilde, and then it becomes a WASD sort of thing. And we can just kind of move in. You can zoom in faster like that by holding Shift. And Q and E, I think, moves you up and down. So let's just put it right there, and that looks pretty good. So you can press F12 to render the image to screen, and then save it if you wanted. Let's also apply the transformation. So what that means is if you were to press F3 and object apply, not all transformations, just the scale, that'll now change all these scale values from their 0.2, 0.2, 0.008 to 1s all around. All right, let's make the procedural wood texture. I think this will be quite fun. So let's switch over to the shading tab, and I have my chessboard right here and I have it selected. To kind of recreate this wood pattern, we'll use something called a noise texture combined with a color ramp. The way I like to do this is inside the node tree, I'll pull the base color out, and you can start typing in what you want to get. So I'm going to type in color ramp and color ramp color, and we'll put that over here. And in fact, I think I want snap to grids. We'll choose 2 colors. One will be the black, and we'll change that to the dark wood color, and the white, we'll click that and then click that and choose this light color. And we can play around with this in a bit. And right now you don't see anything because we don't actually have a color ramp happening. It's just all solid. And the way we can get that is by pulling out the node from here and typing in noise texture. So we can already see with the noise texture, there's a bit of variation starting to happen. And if we were to increase the scale, we can see a lot more of that. And that's pretty cool. We can change the detail to be higher. Distortion is the one that starts to make it look quite a bit more wood-like, but it's a bit too uniform. This is some really high-end like Mangwood or something, or ebony. We are using something a bit longer and straighter grained. So to get that does look pretty cool, I won't deny. Let's actually switch over to our rendering engine. For now I'm using Eevee. I just want to use that so I get the proper lighting and coloring. And where is our light? One thing I also notice is it has a bit too much of a sheen with the light, so I want to bring that down by increasing the roughness. I almost want to bring down the IOR. Yeah, if you bring it down to 1, it goes away completely, but we want a tiny bit. How do we make the texture more long and straight, kind of like wood? The one I like to do is called vector. This is kind of what I've seen online, a mapping vector, and we're going to change the scale of one of that. But before we do that, we have to pass in what we're scaling, and that's going to be a UV texture coordinate, I believe. And let's put that there, and you can already see that it's now following the textures of the UV map. We can scale, let's scale the X, I think. That should work really nicely. Yeah, there we go. And not too much around the distortion, and we already are starting to see, because of the way the UV map was made for this piece, everything lines up really nicely along the X already. We get our nice little corners just like that. Super nice. And if you didn't have that, you can modify your UV map to work with it. First of all, let's get a little closer. I think I want to scale the X even more, and let's bring down the scale somewhere around there. And I think the color needs to have, yeah, a bit darker, a bit more of a dramatic shift. And actually, that looks pretty good. It doesn't need to be perfect. We're just, in my case, I want to have something relatively close to real images, but it doesn't need to be absolutely the same. It just has to kind of follow that blend. So I think that looks pretty good. I have it down here. And one thing that will really make this pop is literally a bump map. So let's add that in, and we can do that to the normal of the principal, BSDF. We type in bump, normal, and I'll just put that right here, and then pass in the same noise texture to the height of it. And that's way too strong, but very cool. So let's bring that way down. Something like that. That's still a bit too much. But yeah, something kind of like that. And now you can kind of see with the shift in light, there's a bit more depth to it, which is exactly what bump maps do. Yeah, I like that a lot actually. That looks quite nice. Yeah, you can play around with this as much as you want. There's no really right or wrong answer. I'm just going to arbitrarily choose that for now. I think that looks pretty good. If we were to go into the camera view, you can kind of see that that is starting to match up really nicely. Actually, what I think I'd like to do is do the exact same thing for the other material, the white wood. So let's see if I can copy and paste that over just like that. And let's get rid of this one and pass that in. And right now you can see the wood looks almost exactly the same, but what will change now is the colors. And the dark color will choose something like that. And the light color will choose something like, say that. And that actually looks quite nice. All right, I'm pretty happy with that chessboard. And I had a lot of fun making this video. If you enjoyed this kind of content, please leave a comment and subscribe so you can see the next video, where I'm going to be making the pieces as well as building the synthetic dataset. All right, see y'all next time, and cheers. Thanks for watching.